Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I'm joined by my colleague James Kearney. How's it going, James?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good. All good. I was at the Heart of Midlothian Midlothian Shareholders Association last night, meeting at Gorgie Street. It was good, and there was presentations from Liam Fox and Drew Webster, which were really good. Especially Liam Fox on the B team was really good and really informative. And it was there's similarities between what he was presenting and what Naismith did at the coaches event. So hopefully going to spend some time with Fox and the B team at Oriam, hopefully in the near future. So that'll be interesting. So yeah, that was good.
Yeah, no, that sounds interesting. Like you'd imagine that obviously with Fox and Naismith, they'd probably have similar ideas, and that Naismith, that was Naismith's job not that long ago, and so you'd imagine they've probably spoke about it. They've probably got similar ideas about how they see the team progressing and all that. So yeah, it's still nice to hear they're on the same page.
Yeah, it was good. I was really impressed by Fox, and he's a Hearts fan, and he kind of talked about how understands what Hearts fans want from a Hearts team, and he was talking about the way he wants his team to play, and that was kind of aggressive in your face. I know I've been told to stop pushing Fox for manager. I'm absolutely not doing that. 100% not doing that. But I was just it was interesting. I think he's in the ideal position for him, in that he's a very good coach and working with young players. So with that out of the way, we'll move on to discuss Heart of Midlothian against Aberdeen, which takes place in the Scottish Premiership tomorrow afternoon at Tynecastle Park. So where to start? I reckon we'll start with the lineups, because ever since Tuesday night, I've been wrestling with what Hearts should play, and even just trying to do the predicted lineups that we put on the site just half an hour or so ago. It was just so difficult to decide what I would pick, but also then trying to be inside Naismith's head and think, what's he going to pick?
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that he does like to change things up from game to game quite often, but I think that we're probably likely to stick with the back three for this one. I think we're likely to see like the 3-4, the 3-1-4-2 that we've seen so often. I think
that was a big question, is whether we play with a back four. That is one of the big questions: whether we play with a back four or back three.
Yeah, no, I think the back three seems almost certain to me. I was kind of having a wobble. I thought he might go 3-4-3 for this one. I'm sure that the game back in at Tynecastle earlier in the season, the 2-0 win, I'm sure in that game the Hearts were 3-4-3 for a bit and it went really well, but I might be talking nonsense. This is just
that was a system we played against Aberdeen when we won.
Yeah,
won at Tynecastle early in the season. It was Oda. I think it was Oda Forest wide. With Shanklin.
That vaguely rings a bell. And
Shanklin and Boyce.
Obviously, the two of them as well, after their performances on Tuesday night, they're both absolutely gunning for starts. But I think it probably will be the 3-1-4-2. I just think that in terms of from a defensive perspective, I think that obviously Aberdeen like to attack going down the wings and those little gaps in between the wing back and the centre half. It just kind of closes down that area of the park, and whilst also still having a couple of men infield to deal with anyone attacking centrally. So I just think that it constricts space out in the wings, and I think that's where Aberdeen are most likely to attack and trying to hit Hearts in the counter. The one thing I'd say Hearts need to be aware of, though, is playing with a relatively high defensive line, which is something that we're used to seeing. But as we saw at Pittodrie, that can also be their undoing against a team like Aberdeen, who when they do is just start shelling it long, when they do is just start lumping it in behind. They've got the runners there to really make life difficult for you. And I think that'll probably be lurking at the back of Naismith's mind as well. I don't think it'd be human if he wasn't thinking about that, and particularly the way that I just remember that winning goal at Pittodrie. Just like the whole defence seemed like didn't really know what to do. Halkett was obviously just came back in the team. He was a wee bit unsure what to do, and there was just so much space for him to exploit. And that's the one thing I think that Hearts have got to be really wary of on Saturday?
So I'm one of the reasons I'm on the fence of what it'll go with is trying to second guess Barry Robson. So Aberdeen, in the last 2 league games, they have gone to a back four as per the demands of the demands of the fans. They wanted to see the team move from a back three to a back four. Felt the back three was too reactive. It was kind of too defensive. So they played back four in the last 2 league games. Got 4 points from it, 3-0 up at Ross County, and then they drew 1-1 with St Johnstone for the week. By all accounts, they were awful against St Johnstone for large spells on Wednesday night. And it was interesting that as soon as they got ahead through a debatable penalty, that then Robson made a couple of changes and then went to back three, and kind of just gave St Johnstone the momentum to come back into it. And then after the game, he bemoaned about the players should have, when you go up ahead, just stay in your structure. And then he changed his structure. So I'm unsure what he will go for tomorrow. I think he is struggling at the moment, and I just wonder if with that he'll just kind of revert to a back three. And even though that I think it was Slobodan Rubovic is out injured, but they've got guys there who can fill in, who play fullback, but can also play as a 3-man backline. So yeah, I'm curious as to what Aberdeen will play, because you look at if they have, for example, Duke and Miovski up front. I would like the safety of having a spare centre back. Kind of just the common theme amongst managers is that they want to have one extra defender than they have than the other team have attackers.
And especially as well with Rose being away, where obviously he's so well suited to being part of that back three, because he's got that recovery pace. And, if somebody does beat him, he can generally get back. He can make that up and still get back in time. Kingsley is a good player, but he's not quite as quick or quite as athletic as somebody like Rose, I wouldn't have said. So I think that that's probably a blow in that sense. But yeah, I'm completely agree with you. I think that having that back three, particularly with the wing backs there, just again, and we saw it at Pittodrie. We know exactly. Just you look back and watch the second half of the game against Hearts up at Pittodrie, and you can see the wings that's the really dangerous areas, particularly when they just start shelling it long, winning second balls, getting out wide, then drilling balls into the box. That was, Hearts didn't really have much of an answer to that. The last time these two sides met last month, and that's what I think they've got to be the biggest concern has got to be going into this one. And that day, Hearts were playing a back three, and there were still problems with it. But I think that part of it as well is just because the first half at Pittodrie, Aberdeen were trying to play a bit more out of the back, and Hearts were able to press them brilliantly, and really get a great foothold in the game. And obviously they took the lead going and 1-0 at half time. But then it's because that was such a huge dramatic gear shift for the second half, because they went from kind of having it their own way to all of a sudden having it not their own way. That made things a lot worse as well. So there are degrees of mitigation there, but certainly I think there are definitely a lot of lessons to be learned from that last match. But as we know, this is a game that tends to go the way of the home side.
Yeah, that's. I just wrote in the newsletter that the last 20 meetings between the sides, the home sides have won 15, and then there's been 5 draws. So hopefully it becomes 16 and 21, 16 and 21 tomorrow. You look at Aberdeen, if they do play with a back four, then they don't really have any wide wingers. So they kind of play Jamie McGrath out wide. They play Jamie McGrath out wide and Dante Polvara. So if they do play that, I think they could be quite narrow, and then they'll be spaced in the size. And then you look at the positives of playing with the back four. You've got natural width higher up the park. You've got pace, but I do think that's game against Aberdeen. You just think maybe just save that for the second half if it's kind of required or something needs to change. Perhaps that's something that Naismith could have done up at Pittodrie. And then also Shankland. I think Shankland's probably best when he's great in whatever formation he can play up front in his own, no problem. But I think you probably get a bit more from him if he's got a partner.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think that's definitely true. Just we know that because we talk about it a lot, but one of the things he's great at, particularly during build-up plays, gets the ball in, gets it down to feet, holds off a man, maybe draws another man, and then releases it. And if there's nobody there to release that ball to, it's all kind of meaningless and it's all worthwhile. So yeah, I think that's right. And even just when it gets to like the edge of the box and you want to try and get some quick, clever passes on the go, it's a lot easier if he's got something next to him rather than he's trying to look for an on-rushing midfielder or a winger who's maybe too far to the side or whatever it is. So, yeah, I think that a front two does make sense for this one. Again, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if it did turn out to be a 3-4-3. I think it's probably between it being like a 3-1-4-2 and a 3-4-3. I would argue. I don't think we're going to see the back four again for this one, even though it was so successful in the second half against Dundee. It's a completely different game, and that was that game itself kind of called for taking the handbrake off and really having a go. Obviously, you're 2-0 down at home, need to get back in the game. Dundee are sitting back, they're allowing the pressure to come on, they're inviting the pressure, so you need to go for it. Aberdeen, it's not going to be quite as, I don't think they'll have a bit more about them in an attacking sense, I think, than Dundee did. Even though Dundee did score 2 goals, they were kind of goals out of nothing. I think Aberdeen will attack with more threat and more regularly. So yeah, it's definitely a different challenge. But in terms of the partner, like I think we've seen Kenneth Vargas over the last few games. Obviously, he scored 3 games in a row right before the Dundee match there. He had that honking miss as well, but we won't hold that against him because it didn't count anyway. It was a foul anyway. But I think right now in current form, you've got to put Alan Forrest in there.
I think you just look at Naismith and the way he operates in that he changes it game to game who's playing in the final third, except for like Shanklin's when he's fit, he always plays. Yeah. He always starts, and the fact that he had Forrest and Grant on the bench makes me think that both will come into the starting 11 for the match tomorrow. I see Liam saying I wouldn't be surprised to see Haring. Shinnie will win header second balls and be difficult to play against when we need a dog in there. I can see the thinking behind that, but the only reason I don't think that'll happen is because he's not been on the bench the last couple of games. So I just don't. I'm not sure if he's in plan. So that would be a surprise. What I would say is that if it's a back four, I generally wouldn't be surprised if we saw, because you're thinking, right, who's going to drop out because you've got Kingsley, so you'd have to potentially drop one of Cochrane, Kingsley, Halkett, Kemp. But then the alternative is more to think about it. If it's a back. If it was a 4-3-3, for example, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cochrane in there alongside Benny, and then either maybe Neuenhoff or Grant, or probably more so Grant. So yeah, there is absolutely loads of options, and that's why I just wouldn't be surprised to see any kind of system tomorrow. But I think the big thing for me is some of the reaction after the Dundee game is, speaking to a few folk on Twitter, it's just like talking about how much better the team are in the kind of back four, and that Hearts should always play back four. And it just felt just a wee bit reactionary when 3 at the back's been so successful for the last couple of months.
I would say so, yeah. I think it does give you a really solid defensive foundation to build on. And I think, for instance, like I said, like the other night, that switching to the back four, that was time to take the handbrake off and just basically go attack. You can't play every game like that, and if you do, you're going to get found out quite quickly, I think. So I think I prefer defensive security the back three provides. I think Naismith does as well. The team's defensive record is still excellent across the full season. I think Xander Clark's still second in the league for clean sheets this season. I think he's got 10. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's
thereabouts. Anyway, a lot. Anyway, he's doing really well. I just think that while obviously the second half against Dundee was really exciting, and it was the kind of football that fans love seeing. I don't know if the team's capable of playing like that way for 90 minutes week in, week out. I think we're more likely to see the team start off with that little bit more caution, and then, like you say, if things aren't going well, it does give you that option to quickly change things up, to then add in the likes of to add in it, bring in another attacker, change the shape, get another playmaker a bit further up the park, and then just start really asking some serious questions. But I think just going off of the last 2 months or so, the back three has been working, and while it was maybe the wrong setup for the Dundee game, it doesn't mean it's the wrong setup. Full stop. That's
the big thing, and I feel coming away from the Dundee game in the last couple of days, just thinking if it was me, I would be like, right, Tate starts, and then I'll build the team around that. But I just think tomorrow is looking kind of longer term, bigger picture. I think if Benny's fit, you probably still play him just because of that, just because of the experience in there. I just think that it's Tate. While he's so highly rated, he's a really impressive player. He showed so much of what he can give Hearts. I just think a game like tomorrow, you maybe bring him off the bench if Benny's there and you need it. I just think Benny is, again, felt he was being written off again after he's poor. He just had an off night. I just still think he's still an important player, and he's brings probably a wee bit more control, sometimes frustratingly so. Can take probably takes an extra touch too many times, or which can frustrate and slow the game down. But there's times where you need that, and tomorrow might be one of those games where you do need kind of Benny's composure and calmness in there and kind of just like settle things down.
I would think so, yeah. I think, particularly again games against the likes of Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen and Hibs, who are obviously the most likely rivals for third, those matches are the ones where Benningham can like really make his influence felt, and be, those are the games where because like keeping a hold of the ball in those games is much more difficult than any other game you're going to play. So like having something like that in your team that can do that, the effect it's like multiplied. It becomes even more effective by when you're doing that against top level opposition, or against players that can also get control of the ball and keep a hold of it. Because I don't think tomorrow's going to be like some of the games we've seen this season where it's been 60-70% possession for Hearts. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think they'll have more of the ball, but it's not going to be quite as dominant as that. So I think that you're right. I think that someone like Benningham, where you do see his experience, we saw him in the derby, for instance. He was excellent that night at Easter Road, and you just saw what he could bring to the team when there's that little clip that was doing the rounds on Twitter afterwards of him getting the ball, drawing like 2 or 3 men towards him, moving it on, getting it back, driving forward. Stuff, if you can do stuff like that against like Aberdeen, you can really get far. And I do think that Macaulay Tate, as brilliant as he was the other night, I think that playing against somebody like, the one thing I did notice when watching it back was that yes, he did really well to get himself into loads of wee pockets of spaces, and and that was great. I don't think you're going to get that same amount of time on the ball against a team like Aberdeen, particularly an Aberdeen midfield containing someone like Graham Shinney, who's just going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. And I think that's a big ask for any point of Premiership to go up against him, never mind an 18-year-old. So I think you're right. I think that it's one of those where Tate couldn't have done much more to get into the team, I don't think. But
no,
I think this particular game coming up, if it was almost anyone else coming up, you'd say, oh, he's got to start. But I think for this one match, you go, oh, that's a big ask. That's a big step up. Like you say, if the team are struggling, if they're a goal down and maybe Beningham's not playing particularly well, or if the teams are chasing the game, and you need something a bit different, something a bit more forward thinking, you can maybe turn to Tate at that point and go for it. But I think asking him to start, play a full 90, that's quite a big ask. I mean, has he ever started a game before?
No, that's his. That was his third appearance. So he came off the bench against. He came off the bench against Celtic. Came off the bench late on against St Mirren. That was the most amount of minutes he's played for the first team in a game. So, yeah. If I saw his name on the starting team sheet tomorrow, I'd be more than happy, because really looking forward to watching him more and more. But
yeah,
it should be confirmed. I should have said when I started talking about that Benny, Aidan Denham, I think Alex Cochrane maybe had knock as well. They all trained today, so they're all available for tomorrow. If just people were thinking that Benny could still be injured. So yeah, we've kind of discussed the team and the options and the questions that involve. Moving on to kind of the bigger picture and what a win tomorrow could mean. Liam says tomorrow is huge. Absolutely falls into the must-win category given the games in hand and psychologically speaking as well. Losing suddenly gap isn't as big. Need to lay down a marker. I'm not sure I'd go as far as must-win just because of the gap that is there. It's not as if I think it's must-win for Aberdeen, that's for sure. I think it's for Hearts probably maybe border on maybe more of a must-not-lose, but the opportunity there for Hearts to win tomorrow, and you can not just beat in Aberdeen, but you look at the other fixtures in the Premiership. So St Mirren are the early game against home to Rangers. Kilmarnock are playing Hibs as well. So there's a good chance that the teams that you either expect to be challenging Hearts for third or are currently challenging Hearts for third, it's feasible that all could drop points. And if Hearts win, it would be massive in that they could go into finish Saturday with a 10-point advantage, or an advantage in double figures potentially, a 19-point advantage over Aberdeen, who, yes, have 3 games in hand, but that is just, even with them winning 3 games in hand, and in all that what happened last season, it becomes insurmountable. So that's, I completely agree with what Liam said in terms of psychologically. It's a massive blow for Aberdeen, and I think that's just, it'd be too much for them to catch up. And also, I think it continues to build the momentum that Hearts have. And the thing I've been kind of thinking about since Tuesday is that it continues building that trust, because I still think that there's elements of the Hearts support who are maybe not fully set on the kind of fully trust whether the team or it's the management. I don't know why. I think that trust should be there now. We've seen come back from 2-0 down at home to Ross County to get a draw, came back from 2-0 to beat Dundee, that this team can come up with big moments when they're being tested. They can control games, they can win big games. They've shown that they can do all this thing. So that's why I think tomorrow, if a win, should solidify or help build that trust even further and push Hearts towards almost like you're bordering on, they got one step further towards or one hand on third place.
No, it'd be a massive win if Hearts can do it, and I think you're right. I don't think that it's must win for Hearts, but it is must win for Aberdeen. If Aberdeen are serious about finishing third, if they want to actually do it, they need to win tomorrow, which, as we've said, is a big ask, given that the home team always seems to win this one. The away team never seems to turn up. So yeah, I agree. I think that, yeah, I mean, you look at it and you look at the numbers of it, and certainly if Hearts avoid defeat tomorrow, that alone is probably enough to knock Aberdeen out of the race for third, I would think. You know, I think that Aberdeen really do need a big turnaround in order to do it. And obviously, like you say, we've seen this movie before. You know, last season still fresh in our heads, but even still, it would at that point it sure becomes insurmountable. And
yeah, because you look at
having that cushion as well just does make all the difference. Particularly like you say, it does mean that if you have there'll be points dropped against, like, you know, Celtic and Rangers between now and the end of the season. You know, and there might be other slip ups along the road as well. But just having that little cushion to eat into it and to know that, okay, we could lose 2 or 3 games in the bounce and we're still third, you know, that makes a huge difference psychologically, I think, to the players.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it could be a really, really big game, just in terms of the smaller picture, but more the kind of bigger picture and long term as well. So yeah, I think it's really, really looking forward to it, and hopefully that this home away hex or whatever it is that this fixture has continues, and Aberdeen are having to scuttle back up the road without any points. I suppose have you got anything else to add, or you want to say about tomorrow? Do you want to move on to kind of discussing Scott Fraser and other things that have been happening?
Yeah, no, I can't think of it. Nothing pops into my head. Let's do it. Scott Fraser and all that.
Yeah, yes. Scott Fraser is this one. So yeah, it's been held up. I think everyone will be aware that he was at the game on Tuesday. Unfortunately, it has been held up because Charlton sacked their manager, so I think it's just a waiting game. Scott Fraser, I think, is really keen to come up north and join. So that's one that keeps that. I think might just basically been a waiting game for that one to come. But hopefully it's sooner rather than later, so James can finally release his piece on what Scott Fraser. The thing is, by the time he comes, barely got any games to showcase what his talent.
Well, I hope it gets done sooner rather than later. But it does seem as if it will be. It's just a matter of time, you know, coming from the noises that we're hearing from Naismith, coming from the club. But it does seem as if there's not much in the way of concern that it's going to fall through or anything like that. Obviously, there is a new manager coming in at Charlton. There's always a risk that he goes, "Oh no, I love Fraser, I want to keep him." When I was watching clips of Fraser, though, it's fair to say he's not had the best season at Charlton at the moment. And you know, some Hearts fans might have noticed when there's an English journalist down south who said that, oh, hang on, the deal's been held up. Maybe there's been a slight delay to it. There were a lot of Charlton fans who seemed quite upset about that, you know, because they were, oh no, we're stuck with him and all that. Now, that's not to say he's a bad player. I think he's going to be a great player, as you can read about whenever he does get announced. But again, it's that thing of, well, if he's not very popular at the moment, and he's also out of form. What are the odds of a new manager coming in going, no, this is the guy, I need him.
Yeah.
Unlikely. So I think, it does seem as if it will go through eventually.
One thing I'd say about Fraser, similar to Lembikisa, because you've seen it with when Lembikisa, I know it's early days, but he's shown a lot of promise. That he came up from Rotherham. He was on loan at Rotherham's first half of the season. Rotherham fans were suspicious, but it's like you look at like circumstances or the environment. Rotherham wasn't a great environment for Lembikisa because he's just had to defend. They were not very good. And then with Charlton, the environment is they're not a very well run club by the sounds of things, and they've really struggled over the last few years. So just because like one player struggles in one place, it doesn't naturally mean that's going to carry on to another place where he's coming into a team that are full of confidence and doing well in the league.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just got things that don't really wane with time. Things like he's got excellent vision. From open play. He's got a really great eye for a cross, like kind of from the edge of the box, kind of coming one in towards the edge of the 6-yard box. He's brilliant at that kind of stuff, and that's stuff that, particularly the vision thing, like you can't really teach that. It's like one of those things you can either do it or you can't, and he can see it. He does know where other players are. He can move the ball quickly at pace if he needs to. He can slow it down and take a man on and then whip a ball in. So these are things that we know he can do. He's got that skill set, and as I say, I'm really looking forward to seeing him in action. Just when it eventually gets done, touch wood.
Fingers crossed. What else has been happening? Connor Smith has joined St Johnstone. I think it was an 18-month contract. So he has don't want this to sound mean or anything, but kind of finally left Hearts. He's been on loads of loan spells, kind of signed one year deals, and then been out on loan. So I'm kind of happy for him that he's gone somewhere. He's got 18 months. It's not just a contract at the end of the season. It's a contract that's beyond the end of the season. He's a talented player, but for one reason or another, kind of just not worked out for him at Hearts. But there's definitely talent there that can be harnessed in the right way.
It's a good move for him as well.
Yeah.
Obviously he's getting a Premiership move, which is great.
Guys that know him, Levine and Kirk.
He's going to be working with Craig Levine as well, who obviously knows him very well. So yeah, I think it's a really nice, really good move for him. And just hopefully he gets to play a bit more, because you want to see young players given a chance, and he just wasn't ever. He just didn't look as if he was going to quite make the grade at Hearts. Certainly Naismith didn't seem that fancied by him anyway.
Yeah, I think Naismith rates him, but I just think now that it's maybe just as the ship has sailed for him. Just he's a wee bit older, and you've got players like Tate and Finlay Pollock and Aidan Denham coming through. So there's guys who are younger who've probably worked closer with Naismith coming through. Craig Halkett signed a new deal. He spoke to the press today, so you read stuff on the website tomorrow morning about him. But yeah, I've wrote an opinion piece yesterday. Won't repeat everything I said, but I just think it makes sense. I think that it'll take time for him to get back to the levels that he was in 21-22 season, when he was such a key presence and his absence was felt last season. Yeah, he didn't have a great game against Dundee, but again, it'll be a steady process where he will kind of progress and maybe have to take a step back, having not played only started to play regularly for the first time in what is a year. But I just look at his attributes and his experience and know-how of Scottish football. I just think that it's something that you want within the Hearts squad, and someone like him, Alan Forrest, Stephen Kingsley, Liam Boyce, guys who know the club, know the league, and can be that kind of reference point for new players, and they can just kind of be a core that you kind of build around, because it allows you to have that continuity from one season to the next. And I think it's important to have that experience, not just of Hearts, but of kind of Scottish football as well, knowing what it takes to win games, to be successful. And when I say successful, kind of finish third.
No, definitely, because you look at it, and I think you do need that in your squad. I think you do need that. You do need a group of guys who are 27, 28, 29, approaching their peak years, preferably who have spent a lot of time in Scotland, who, like you say, understand the league and know what it's all about. And there are a lot of players like that at Hearts at the moment. You've got guys like Halkett, Kingsley, Forrest, Shankland,
Xander Clark.
Barry
Mackay as well when he's fit.
Yeah, exactly. So there are this kind of these kind of cluster of really experienced players who know exactly what to expect and what they're doing. And as I say, yeah, crucially, they're all either at their peak or approaching their peak as well in terms of their physical ability and all that. So you do think that, it's a nice kind of composition to the squad, and I think those kind of guys are always really useful to have around. Well, you've also then got the likes of Pollock, Tate, Denham, etc., kind of knocking on the door and supplementing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of finish off, someone was asking, where is it? There is a lot of rumours going around that Shanklin has signed a new contract. Have you heard anything? And I would say I've only heard what a lot of people have heard in terms of that he's signed a new deal, and it's going around. I think even if I think Hearts would want to keep it on the down low if he has. I think they would like to have it as a bring out of kind of left fielders surprise, and give the fans something to be very happy about. So yeah, fingers crossed it is happening, but I don't know anything official.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. No, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We will be back at some point, maybe over the weekend or Monday, to review the Aberdeen game. But be sure to check the site to see all the latest from Hearts pre-match and post-match for the game tomorrow. Until next time, thank you very much and goodbye.